Respected ma'am and dear participants, a very good evening to all of you. I, Savraj, member of Legal Vidya, welcome you all to this Mastering the Next Step, a comprehensive blueprint to applying for LLM program. So this webinar is designed to guide law student and the professional through the process of applying for LLM program both in India and abroad. This webinar will provide a valuable insight into selecting the right program, creating a strong application, writing compelling statement of purpose, and securing scholarship. So before we begin this webinar, I would like to introduce our organization, that is Legal Vidya, to you all. So Legal Vidya, that was founded in the year 2021 with the vision of empowering young lawyers. Sorry for the inconvenience. Now, our multifaceted platform offered a comprehensive array of opportunity, including intensive webinar, workshops, and courses catering to diverse learning needs with the legal domain. Additionally, we provide a platform for individuals to showcase their expertise through article publication, fostering a vibrant community of legal discourse and knowledge exchange. Now, I would like to introduce our speaker for today's webinar. Now, the speaker for today's webinar is Miss Threshi Lawrence, ma'am. She is a young lawyer exploring her interest in the field of litigation and arbitration. She has worked the complex arbitration, insolvency matter, white-collar crimes, and assisted in matters before the Delhi High Court and the Supreme Court. Ma'am was a member of the team that reached octa finals at the Frankfurt Investment Arbitration Commercial Arbitration Moot and ranked third globally. She was an oralist at the 26th William C. Weiss International Commercial Arbitration, Vienna. Further, she has mentored several teams for her LL.M matter, including the contingent that reached semi-finals at the 28th William C. Weiss International Commercial Arbitration, Vienna. Ma'am has been actively published in different forums, including Cambridge International Law Journal blog, and is a founding editor of the blog, Investment and Commercial Arbitration Review. Now, before we starting this session, I would like to introduce our Legal Vidya 6-week advanced drafting course, where you learn fundamental of contract, drafting contract from basic to advanced, landmark case studies, and many more. And the speaker for this course is Advocate Geetika Jain, ma'am, gold medalist, senior legal analyst with a 12 years of experience at the High Court of Bombay and Goa. And the starting date of this course is 4th November, and the last date of registration is 3 November. Only few days are left. And if you live classes will be scheduled from Monday to Friday, and if you miss any classes, recorded lecture will be available to you. And all the details of this course I will share in the group. So without any further ado, let's warmly welcome ma'am to this virtual stage and begin the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for that introduction. So okay, so as you would know, I think, okay, before I start off, I'm going to request everyone. So generally, whenever I do these sessions, I would always request the audience to keep the camera on, because whenever I used to take the sessions, I would take it in person. So it just becomes a lot more easier to understand if the crowd is engaging, do they get where you're going, is the conversation sort of hitting it off? So I really hope it's not too demanding for you guys if, I mean, we have what, about 27 students here or 27 of you guys. Would you mind keeping the camera on? Because I promise you in the next 50 minutes that I will try and make sure that it's a very engaging session for you guys. And that will be really, really helpful. Hi, Madhavi. Thanks a lot. Hi, guys. So that's Anurupa. Am I right? Yeah. Okay. I'm a little bad with names. I'll get there. I promise. Okay. Hi, guys. Thanks a lot. So on the course, during the course, if you're comfortable enough, please switch on the camera, because the session's sort of structured in a way that I'll be taking you through SOPs, and instead of just saying what is required, I will sort of break down the SOP that I've written and what got me through to an admission. And that'll be the way in which the session's going to be structured. So if throughout the conversation that you can switch on the camera, because I would, it's nice to know if I'm getting through to you or if anything is not getting through to you. It'll just be a lot more engaging. All right. So just to start off, I mean, the introduction that was given about me also. I graduated from NLU Delhi in 2022. I immediately went on to a job in a top-tier firm. I worked there for 2 years. And right now I'm working with a senior advocate in the Supreme Court and Delhi High Court. I do mostly arbitration and dispute related work. So one of the first questions that will obviously get asked is, have you done a master's yet? And the simple answer is, I have not done it yet, to be very honest. Immediate question is, what the hell am I doing here? Why am I giving you a session on an LLM application when I've not gone for my master's? Thing is, I had applied for my master's. I had applied to a college that I really wanted to go, which was Cambridge University in the UK. I had wanted to do international law and public law and trade law, which was the best course in Cambridge. Thankfully, I gotten through to my application and whatnot, and which is the reason why I think I went through that process so much so, and a few Rhodes Scholarship and all of those processes, that I really went through the grind to be able to understand what makes a good SOP, what doesn't. And I sort of helped students or my colleagues thereafter in terms of drafting it. The question is, I didn't pursue it simply because of the matter that I felt I wanted some work experience and some kind of direction in terms of how I was going. But the idea was I will always go back to it at some point or the other. Now, the thing is, when you're doing any of these applications, right, there are so much of pros as to why you do an application. There's a lot of motivation, considerations, how do you plan it ahead, yada, yada, yada. But the thing is, that'll require a completely different new session because it takes time to sort of break that down. So today's session is sort of broken down in a very bare-bone manner. Hi, Nandini, you can keep the camera on. I'll be always happy. Anyway, so the entire session is sort of broken down into three parts, which is one, we'll be looking at certain of the considerations that's required in an application, your do's and don'ts, what will actually get you through. These are not, again, whatever I'm saying, take it with a pinch of salt, because ultimately it's a very personal and biased way of looking at these applications. It could work for some, it could not. It worked for me, which is why there's a sense of confidence in saying, I think path in some way can be quite helpful. The other thing we'll be doing is, largely when you look at LLM applications, okay, just very curious, just type on the text or on the messaging side, which year are you guys in? Just to be able to see, is it something that I should be taking it from a perspective of when you're in your fourth year, fifth year? Second year, okay. Second year, fifth year, second year, fifth year, fourth year. Okay, so it's a very fair mix, essentially. Fourth year. Seventh year, which law school are you from? Which law school have you done seventh year from? ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. Final year, ठीक है. So the thing is, in each of these sections, if you're from your first year perspective, then you're trying to see what can I do to sort of get through an LLM program when I'm in my fourth year. If you're coming from a fourth year perspective, your applications actually start off in November, December. If you're in your fifth year also, vice versa. Your applications are sort of starting in right now. Hi, Arjun. But again, hi. Thanks for opening the camera. So essentially what we'll be essentially doing is we're going to break down SOPs, we're going to break down LORs, and we're going to break down a scholarship essay. And that'll be the way I sort of guide you in terms of what is essential in an essay. Okay. So when I think every time without fail, when I've taken one of these sessions, one of the first questions I get asked is, given ChatGPT, what is the essentiality of learning how to write a good SOP? Because I'm sure if any of you have not tried this exercise, type on ChatGPT or give it a very good detailed prompt as to an essay that you want to apply to, right? You want to apply to Georgetown, you want to apply to a UK college, you want to apply to a US college. Can we complete LLM via long distance? I will take these questions in the last 5-10 minutes. I promise I'll address any questions that I can answer in the last 10 minutes. If you have any doubts with respect to what I'm talking right now, stop me any point and then we can sort of discuss it over, okay? If it's any questions that's much more personal, we'll take it in the last 10 minutes from 6:50. Anyone can remind me and we can do a Q&A, a very easy Q&A. All right. So again, I'm just going back to that question. One of the things that constantly get asked to me is the difference between a ChatGPT generated SOP and a personalized SOP. Okay, so I'm just going to do a very simple exercise with you guys. And I really request, switch on your camera. No worries. Okay, so an SOP, my bad. I'm really sorry. An SOP is a statement of purpose. So for every LLM application that you do, you sort of break it down to statement of purpose. You have an LOR, which is a letter of recommendation, which is essentially your teachers telling you, vouching for you, saying that you're a good student. It's essentially saying this student is really credible. They've got X and Y grades. I've got a really good understanding of what they do. And this is the reason I think they should be admitted to your LLM program. An SOP, on the other hand, which is a statement of purpose, is essentially your statement to an LLM program or your university, telling them this is the reason why I should be admitted. This is the reason why I want to pursue an LLM at your university. All right. So again, guys, keep your mics open. You can tell me otherwise also, or just type it on the group. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a very detailed prompt that I gave ChatGPT in terms of writing an essay to Cambridge University. And I'm going to show the essay that I wrote. You won't understand the difference because I'm not given a title of sorts. Tell me what you think. If this experiment fails, it's a really bad look on me. But if it doesn't, it's an actual good exercise. So I'm going to take you through it. Take care. Can you guys see my screen right now? Anyone? I can't see you
Ma'am,
guys.
it's not properly
Yes,
visible.
ma'am.
You can see it now?
Ma'am, are you on the meeting screen? Then that is visible.
I'm not on the
only.
meeting screen. Can you see something called documents for LO?
No, no. As
No?
of now, no.
Just give me a minute. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, I don't know why. Stop sharing, stop presenting. Screen. Can anyone tell me why this is happening? Why there is a concurrent legal Vidya team? Is there a reason why I'm not able to present?
Ma'am,
No,
I
ma'am.
think you have to choose a screen to present it.
Yeah, I'm doing allow share screen.
Ma'am, you have to choose the whole screen you have to present from Windows. I think you are just choosing the Windows, ma'am. That's why it is happening.
Wait, just give me 1 minute. Can you see it right now?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am,
ma'am.
it is visible.
It's visible.
Okay, can you see 2 essays right now?
Right. Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so the exercise is very simple. Okay, one of these essays is a very detailed ChatGPT generated essay, and the other essay is the essay that got me through to Cambridge. Okay, take 2 minutes, just go through the first 2 paragraphs or first 3 paragraphs of both of these essays, and can you tell me which essentially would be a ChatGPT one and would essentially be mine? Can we start the exercise?
Ma'am, it is not visible.
It's not visible. The essay is not visible.
Visible. You have to zoom it.
Ma'am, it's visible. You just
Okay,
have
just
to
give me
zoom.
one. Is the essay not visible or okay?
No, no, ma'am, it was okay.
Give me 1 minute. I'm going to share screen. This has not happened to me generally. Okay, can you guys see it now?
Yes.
Or is it too minimized in your ways?
It's quite
It's okay.
visible.
Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you see 2 essays on your left and right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Just take 2 minutes. I will ask around 6:21 if you can just read the first 2 paragraphs and see what you could possibly think is ChatGPT and the other one, which is a personalized essay. Don't bother about the nitty-gritties.
We can give the answer or we should type it in.
No. Give the answer. Feel free to give the answer.
The second one is ChatGPT.
Which is second? To your left or to your right?
To the right.
You think right is ChatGPT? ठीक है.
Yeah,
Anyone else?
starting with my participation in the Frankfurt moot competition, that
ठीक
appears
है.
to be machine.
ठीक है. So that's ChatGPT. So we've got one who's saying ChatGPT is the right one. Anybody else?
I think one on the right is personalized and the one on the left, starting with from my earliest academic exploration, is ChatGPT.
ठीक है. Anybody else? So we've got two people who've gotten two different answers. Anyone
Ma'am,
wants to be the
I-
tiebreaker?
Ma'am, the left one is ChatGPT.
First one is the chat GPT and second one is personalized.
Okay, ठीक है. Anybody else?
Ma'am, same answer, like the first
Same
one
answer.
from my
Is there
early.
anybody else who thinks ChatGPT is the right, just to see if there is some kind of sync?
Ma'am, I think ChatGPT is the right one.
You think ChatGPT is the right one. So you've got two ChatGPT on the right, and you've got about 3 or 4 to the left, which says that's ChatGPT, right? Anybody else? Okay, cool. No worries. You've guys seen it, right? So people who said it's on the right, that's right is actually my personalized essay, which got me to Cambridge. The left is the ChatGPT oriented one. Okay. You guys want to just take a look at it again? I've given the exact, so in my prompt, what I gave was tell them I participated in Frankfurt, tell them it's investment arbitration, whatever. It's okay, it's complete, it's actually great. ChatGPT can actually make it look like it's replicated my work, which is fantastic. But what you're going to see if you go through this entirety of this essay, right? Look at the way it's structured. It's much more generic in terms of its appeal, as opposed to, for example, in mine, right? Where I've given examples. I have said what confounds me, what motivates me, what is the issue that I have, what is my interest. All of that actually gets covered in the more personalized essay. Right? Hello. Okay, right? So in your chat GPT, what you will essentially see, and then when you're going through the recording also, you can essentially see, what I did was I told them, please mention my Frankfurt moot, because that's what opened my interest. Please tell about my ranks, my professor, internships, yada, yada, yada. I gave them a very detailed thing of include 10 things in my essay. What you will see in my essay is a much more engaging thing where I have a discussion and a dialogue. I say, this is the issue that I think exists. This is what I wanted to find a solution to. This is what I think confounded me and whatever. As opposed to a much more generic essay. And in no way or the other am I telling you that ChatGPT is not going to help you in building a structure. It's actually great. Even when I read it, I thought it was fantastic the way it was written. Problem is, a good recruiter who's done this for 10 years. I'm saying a couple of you are able to guess the difference between a chat GPT and a personalized essay, right? You can only imagine what an actually good recruiter is going to understand in terms of a generic essay and in terms of what's actually personally written. A personalized essay will always have a tone of a dialogue, which chat GPT unfortunately still hasn't been able to get through. If it can, great. You can do it much later on. At least till now, this is an essay that I generated today morning. At least till now, it can't create a dialogue. All right. So even for us, in terms of when you're writing an SOP, which is a statement of purpose, it becomes extremely important for you to at least start this process on your own, which is what is your USP. And this is what I tell everyone. When you look at an essay, your first thing that's supposed to happen is what I call your USP, which is your unique selling point. What in your essay are you going to sell? You think of yourself as like a product. If I'm going to sell myself to you, what am I going to pitch? Who am I going to be? Who am I going to present myself to be? That becomes extremely, extremely important. So the thing is, even when largely, right, when you're going to apply for LLMs, you're going to see one structure is your US category. The other structure is a category that applies to UK. Now, of course, there's going to be a lot more colleges around these places, but what's important is largely you can categorize it as two sections, the UK kind and the US kind. Broadly, the difference between these two issues are when you apply to UK, like your Oxford, Cambridge, King's, any of these universities, you will see the difference is a lot of the focus is on your academic endeavors, your grades, your academic achievements, your research projects, your internships, everything that you do, your mooting, whatever it is. When you look at a US-based internship or a US based essay, you will see it's much more personal. I will tell you my story. I will tell you why my granddad's endeavors in the World War changed the way I was. You will give all of these personalized stories of you as a human being, which connected into something in terms of your essay, which connected into something builder, which is why I'm applying to you. Now, what we're going to do right now, again, the reason, see, I can do this exercise very easily by telling you what is good in an SOP and what are the to-do things. It becomes so important for you guys to understand what a really good SOP looks like, an SOP that has gotten people into colleges. So the one I'm going to show you right now is of a student that got himself into Georgetown with an extremely good scholarship. And what we're going to do together is I've highlighted it in ways that I can break down what an SOP is supposed to look like. So if you guys think it's relevant, just take down basic notes, just basics in terms of your structure to say what should be there in an SOP. Because even for me, right, when I applied for Cambridge, it was very important for me to say, I need to point out 4 things. 1 is my academic grades, 2 is my research internship, 3 is my mooting achievements, 4 is whatever. And I need to tie these 4 together in a very seamless bond to say, this is why I need to be admitted into a Cambridge LL.M. That's your goal. All right. So what we're going to do right now is take an SOP from the US. I mean, it's a friend of mine that we did together, and we can break it down. So if you guys have any doubts, and I mean the most fundamental doubts in terms of how that SOP is structured, switch on your mic and ask me. Okay, because I won't be able to see your face. I will be taking you through that essay to say, look what this person has done. Look at how he's made that assertion, how he's come to that conclusion, and why he got through to that LL.M program. Okay, that works? Take care. Thanks. I'm loving the thumbs up, so thanks a lot. I'm going to take the... Okay. Okay, so essentially this was your 2. This was the ChatGPT one, which says from my earliest academic explorations. And the one which started with my participation, introduced me to a legal order, whatever it is my personalized one, okay? Now we're going to a US sample, which is very distinct from the UK sample. This is your sample of a US college, okay? Okay. Again, just because of the fact that I can't see any of your faces, just do me a favor. If you're following with me, say yes, say no, say whatever. Just make some noise so that I understand you guys are in the background and listening to me, okay? Okay, cool. So this is the LL.M that my friend applied to Georgetown University for a course in law and technology. What I've highlighted in yellow, again, stop me if you're not able to follow me. What I've highlighted in yellow is his hook. Is him saying, this is the reason why I want, or this is the motivation for me to apply to this university. So let's just break it down, right? Let's not go through the entirety of the essay. Just read the highlighted portions. So his portion is, today I believe it is essential to go beyond hypotheticals, to ask new questions about the real impact of technology on our social, economic, political lives, and whom it privileges, protects, and punishes. That's his hook statement. That's essentially him saying, this is my larger, what you would call a hypothesis. This is what I want to explore when I come in. The answer to this is something I don't know, but this is a question to an answer to which I want to find, which I think I will find in your LL.M program. First hook. Second thing, however, it is worth asking, is digital inclusion enough without ensuring that technological systems empower people instead of subjecting them in new ways? That's his confusion. So when you make an assertion saying, I want to do X and Y things, and you're saying, look, but there is also a question that largely disturbs everyone, and I want to find an answer to that. These are his 2 hooks, which essentially forms the basis of his entire essay. Are you guys with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, cool. No worries. Okay. Now you'll see, again, the yellow is his hook step. Essentially, you're saying, these are few questions that I've had in my life. These are the questions that I have encountered when I've been in this practice. And this is the answer to which I want to find, which I think I will find in your LL.M program. It says, with technology becoming embedded in all our lives, I want to spend my career advocating for digital rights, which have become indispensable for meaningful exercise of human rights. So what he's essentially done is over here, I've not highlighted it because it's not important. He's given information with respect to India's progress in technology. In yellow, he says, this is what I want to do in my future. This is exactly, so you see 3 hooks in the first page itself. You see the first hook saying, this is the impact, what I wish I want to do, and a rhetoric question that he poses right over here, which says, this is the answer to which I want to find. Now, what's even more interesting is you see pink and green, right? The pink, what it results is an assertion that I make. For example, guys, just give me 1 minute. I'm just gonna, give me 1 minute. Okay, guys, I'm really, really sorry for that. My Didi's just come to make me some dinner, so excuse me. Where were we? We were right here, right? So essentially what you will see for all your essays is you're going to make assertions. One of these assertions here is, I've always been fascinated by history and politics, which helped me understand diverse people, cultures I encountered moving around the country with my father and army officers. This is an assertion. All right. Give me just 1 more minute. Okay. This is an assertion that the person makes. Now, very similarly, you also make other assertions. Like for me in my essay, it was an assertion about being interested in international law. What most SOPs do, and the fault in most SOPs, is it sticks or it stays with just the, guys, just 1 minute. Sorry, guys. I don't live at home, so it just requires a little bit of issues in terms of management. Okay, I was just saying, what most SOPs do, even when I was doing correcting SOPs in terms of my colleagues or anyone, it essentially lay down an assertion, which is, I like to dance, I like sports. You have to sort of assemble it with reasons why you like it. So, for example, you will see in this particular essay, the pink represents his assertion, which is, I like history and politics. Now, you have to emphasize what you've done to sort of not just say, I like something, I like reading. I've started a book club, would become a reason in which you have sort of persisted on that particular passion or that particular assertion. In this green part, what you're going to essentially see is he said, I like history and politics. He's done a lot of extracurricular activities like MLM, Model UN, institutions. He's done a lot of competitive exams. For example, here you'll see him doing parliamentary debates and heading parliamentary debates. Every time, and keep this as a rule, if you want, take a note of it. Anytime you make an assertion, I like history, it needs to say what you did in order to pursue that interest. Otherwise, what your recruiter is going to look like, is essentially you've made an assertion, I like dogs. So what? A lot of people like dogs, a lot of people like history, a lot of people like books. What have you done to pursue something or build something or towards that becomes the most important part of it. What most SOPs do is that they miss out on this green part. Everything I've read so far, at least the formative ones, they only stick to the pink aspect of it, which is I like political science, I like dance, I like sports, I like English, I like languages. It needs to say, I like languages. I have started studying courses in Duolingo to be able to pursue it. I am a B grade I've reached my B grade or my C grade or whatever it is. Everything that you make an assertion in your application needs to be substantiated with assertions to be able to say that I have done this towards that particular passion. Okay. Similarly, what he's essentially done is, even in green, realizing the impact, I started writing things. I started applying for jobs. The entirety of the blue part, again, is his career. So, for example, most of you guys, as I've understood, are from college, or you guys are just in law school. This blue part that I've highlighted is the work experience that led him to a particular observation. Now, for example, for law students, like when I applied, what the example would be in my 4 years of law school, what I was particularly fascinated by was this X kind of study. I was particularly fascinated by, for example, in my case, was international law or trade law. What drew me to that attention or what made me interested in it is X and Y reasons. It's for the fact that it's a very unique dispute resolution mechanism. Third step, everyone stops in the first two steps. What's your third step? Because I was so interested, I interned in a particular firm which specialized in this and I did projects which led to this. Second thing, I worked with professors in this field. I assisted them as TAs, which is, you're an assistant, a teacher's assistant. Third thing, I started writing things in this particular field. All of that is your rationale, your motivation, and your persistence to say that I have an interest in this field. It's very simple, right? Nobody, if tomorrow you go and tell someone I am a lawyer without showing your bar council ID, nobody's going to take you for it. Simple. Any assertion that you make in your LLM applications needs to be substantiated. So from the beginning, if you look at it, somebody's given you a hook. What is the reason you're applying this for? What is that hypothetical question that you want an answer to? Second thing, you're telling I am a person who've done really good in terms of my academics. I'm a debater. I have done X and Y thing. I have been interested in X and Y thing. And you sort of build it up and say, the reason I have been interested in X and Y thing is for the fact that for me, it was mooting, debating, interacting with people from different fields in life and to be able to find that intermingling. It becomes extremely important for you to substantiate it. Similarly, right? This blue part, let me know if I'm moving fast. You don't need to read it. The idea is to give you parts of an SOP that is actually very important when you're trying to replicate it. For example, this blue part, like I said, is everything that he found as an issue when he was working 3 years in this industry. Now, what does he do? He goes a step further and he says, let's look at this. This is the issue that I faced. This is the issue I understood is glaring in this field. And I have done X and Y thing to be able to address this asymmetry. That together becomes one full package. So for example, here, this green part is his assertion. He said, I have attempted to address this asymmetry through my writing. What he's essentially done is he's been part of surveys. He's done a lot of penning in newspapers. He's done a lot of talks, debates on this particular thing. All of that will show a person who does not just say, I have an interest in X and Y and let it be, but says, I have an interest in X and Y. I think this is the gray area in this field. This is the way I've attempted to mold it or fill that gap. Even more important, what comes in is, how does this tie in to your LLM application? Answer is very simple. As we said, this is my interest. This is what I found an issue in. This is the way I've addressed it. Now you're saying, look, I have not been able to find this full and final answer. I think I need more equipment. I think I need more help. And I think I need more assistance to be able to find an answer. And then the person breaks it down and says, look, your Georgetown, and this is the college that he had applied to, your Georgetown LLM application gives me X and Y, Z things. This is your course curriculum. This is why this course curriculum adheres to my interest. And this is the reason why I think the answer that I need to find, I can find it in your LLM program. So you need to tell this person that this is the person who I am. This is what I've done. Like, for example, because you guys are all law students, this is what I've done in the past 5 years. This is the things that I've done to further that interest. I have still not found the answer, which is why I want to come to your LLM program. Please admit me for the reason that I think your LLM program speaks to me because of the courses, the professors, the structure, the practical insight in the way in which these LLM applications take place. And then you're saying, because of which, this is your LLM program works perfectly for me. And you conclude by saying, look, it's a whole package. This is what your LLM program is going to do for me. And this is what I will be able to contribute. Because every application, everything in life is going to be a bit of a give and take. And you're saying, this is the skills that I bring in. And I've sort of elaborated how and what my skills are. And this is what your LLM program brings. And this is why together we're the perfect union. So guys, I've taken you actually through the entire essay to be able to break down what in every SOP that I've read, almost everything, this green part where I tell you what I have done to further that interest or what I have done to address this asymmetry that I'm talking about is absent. So you've got an SOP which says I am good at X, I'm good at Y, I'm good at Z. I've done XYZ thing, but you've not elaborated why that X and YZ thing is good for your additional studies, why your additional studies fits in perfectly with my program, whichever the LLM program is, and what I can do to contribute. These are the basic structures that every SOP needs to contemplate, and then you sort of form the frills, which is your language and everything. Guys, are you guys with me in terms of that essay? Was that helpful?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah? Does that help? Because the thing is, either I can do this exercise by telling you again, either I can do this exercise by again just telling you what UK SOP looks like, or what I can do is I can take you through the Cambridge essay and tell you the reason why UK SOPs are drastically different in terms of what it would look like from US. You saw in the US, they will tell you about their personality. They'll tell you, I debated. My father was from here. This is why I'm so interested in X and Y, Z things. You will see that completely absent in UK essays, which is so predominantly based on your academic achievements. So you guys can tell me, do you want me to take you through, again, just the same exercise? I can do it shorter through a UK essay so you guys can have an idea of it? Or would you want me to just tell you, okay, these are the basics that you do? Which would be better? Anyone? Should I stick to showing the essay and going through with it, or just explaining it, which would be easier for you guys?
Explaining will be easier.
Explaining would be easier. You don't need to see the essay, right? You think bullet point would be easier? Okay, okay, okay. So what I could do right now in terms of your UK essays, the reason why I thought sample is better, right? If I tell you, you write an answer and then substantiate it, chances are you won't understand how do you substantiate it. So exam, instead of taking the UK essay, in the UK, when I applied for Cambridge, essentially this is the format that I followed. I didn't, and this was the advice that I got, I didn't mention anything in terms of my extracurricular activities at all, in all honesty. My entire essay stood around two things. One, my academic achievements. Two, the issues that I thought existed in that particular field. So for example, my first one was the field that I wanted to work in was something called investment arbitration. It's a very technical, very niche field in international law. Now, what I essentially did was I told them how I got interested in it. So my entire essay was based on my extracurricular activities that was purely academic. So my debating, my blog, my research assistantships, my scholarship that I got to Lithuania, all of that formed the crux of my UK application. So when I started off, it essentially read, the way I got introduced to this field is by mooting. Tick one. Mooting is a very good activity to be able to show academic pursuit or academic achievement. And then I said, when I mooted, I found X and Y issues. So you tell them when I mooted, this is the interest area that you found. I was interested in this because of X and Y reasons. You're saying this is a field that is devoid of any kind of, for example, investment arbitration is a field that is private litigation. Essentially what you do is a private organization can go and sue a government. That is the basic thing of investment arbitration. Now, essentially, you're saying I was interested because of X and Y reasons. Then you tell them that, look, I was interested for X and Y reasons. And because I could not understand it, what I did was I understood there were some issues in this field, largely. What did I do to solve that issue? So first you tell I was introduced. Second, you tell this is my interest area. Third, you tell them these are the gray areas in that field. You've understood problems. You've specifically taken very specific instances of problems and identified it. Fourth, what do you do? In order to address these issues, what did I do? So I said, because of the fact that I understood these issues existed, I started doing research assistantship with two professors, one in Netherlands and the other one in Hong Kong. And I worked with them very closely on this particular subject area. So what I was essentially doing is I was doing a lot of research for them. They were writing articles in terms of structural answering. I was helping them. So you're telling them, look, I found issues. The way I wanted to solve this issue was I went and worked with professors. And I said, look, not just with professors, what I did was in India itself, this field is not a niche area. Basically, in India, this field or this subject area is not taught too much. So what I did was I started a blog particularly focusing on this field, and I had about 120 people write on this, or 120 articles published with some of the leading professors from outside and in India. So it became a good confluence of people working in India and outside, and it became quite largely reputed in terms of the quality that it was providing in terms of literature. So I said, look, I went and studied outside. I went and did research internships with people outside. And I found out in India also this did not exist. So what did I do? I came here and I started a blog. Everything what this shows is you've identified an interest area, you've understood the issues in that interest area, and you've taken active steps to be able to address it or to be able to understand the subject area more. Every application should have those three parts, especially if it's an academic nature. Last thing what you do is, look, you're very aware of the fact that I have not understood the subject area completely. I don't know it too well. Even though I've done all of these internships and experiences, I still haven't gotten a hang of it. And I'm telling, look, your LLM program, what it does is it gives me these 4 modules with the top professors, which I think would be the perfect place that I can understand my interest area and explore it better. So this is the skill set that I bring, and this is the skill set that I think you offer. And I think together, this would be the perfect union, right? Are you guys with me? Is this easier than showing you the essay?
Yes, ma.
Yeah? Okay. Okay. Makes sense. All right. So this is essentially, so just broadly take down this point. In your US college essays, you essentially have to have an element of personality. You want to show yourself as an all-round individual. You want to show yourself as someone who's not just in the books, but you're also someone who has an extracurricular side to yourself. So for me personally, when I'd done a few scholarship essays, I have been an athlete all through my life. I have competed through and through all my life. So my thing was to say, look, I'm also a nerd. I've also done academically really well, but I'm also an athlete. So what an athlete brings to me, or what I can bring to the table, is I'm a team player. I know pressure. I can understand pressure. I'm somebody who's disciplined. I'm somebody who's perseverant. These are all the characteristics that would essentially say, okay, you know what? This person is not just somebody who works well, but can work well with people. So for example, if you're a dancer, even if it's as quirky as somebody who collects stamps, bring that side of you in terms of a US essay, because that's a personality side they want to see of yours, especially if you've competed, especially if you've done something more to achieve it. Great. UK essay, and I'm saying this very restricted to your Oxford and Cambridge. The advice that I got in my Cambridge essay, apart from one line that I said, apart from all of these academic achievements, I'm also an athlete. So when I come there, I do want to participate in their annual rowing competition. And I said, that's also something that I want to do. Because in my CV, I've also given my extracurricular activities at some level or some length. So these are your 2 broad categories in terms of how your essays would sort of be structured. Now, in every application that you will see, you will not just see an SOP, which is your statement of purpose. You will also see something called the LOR, which is your letter of recommendation. Most people, unfortunately, either pick wrong teachers who write you very generic essays. Secondly, either what they essentially do is they pick people who end up not writing good essays. Now, the problem is, like, very normally, right? Your SOP would have perhaps 1,000 words. In no essence can you capture your entire life in that. No way, right? So what you have to do is your application process is a piecemeal that when it fits together, it makes a perfect puzzle. So for example, in my essay, what I did was, when I wrote my Cambridge essay, I wrote my achievements. I wrote very strictly. I didn't talk about my rank. I didn't talk about anything. I talked about my interest area, my achievements in that interest area, how I want to further it. And this is my ultimate goal. When I went to my LOR and I went to my professor and I said, this is an LOR that you need to write. I said, ma'am, given the fact that Cambridge is so huge on academic merit, I want you to focus a lot on my academic achievements. So she wrote about my ranks, my essays, my competition, any kind of awards that I got, all of that she wrote. So when you look at 3 essays together, you look at my personal SOP, you look at 2 LORs which accompany it, you see the student as someone who's great in a subject area, you see a student who's done really well in law school, and then you also see a student who brings in something additionally. So you don't, I think what most people do a wrong thing here is they look at the SOP as a single element. They say, if I've nailed the SOP, ho jayega, I'll get the job or I'll get the LLM. Problem is your LORs and your additional applications that you file along with it is seen together. So you look at it as a perfect union. So your SOP is just one jigsaw puzzle. That everything else comes along with it and it forms an application that is really good as a full package. Now, when you're asking for LORs, and I don't know if you guys have gone through that process. For me, I had the privilege of having some really good professors who wrote me fantastic LORs. LORs that I didn't think I was deserving of. Problem is when I've actually edited LORs, when I've looked at LORs, most professors have not put in enough thought to that LOR, which means what I'll essentially write is, Tracy has been a student of mine for the past 5 years. She's a very dedicated student who's very professional in her endeavors. She's a rank one person. What an LOR should essentially say is it should throw an insight into who you are. So my LOR, for that matter, my professor went on to say, this is a student who walked in, and the first interaction that I've had, an actual interaction that I've had with my professor, is when we did the interview. So when we were doing, essentially the term end, you have to have a viva. In that viva is when she understood me the most. How my viva and my essay was a pinnacle of her understanding me and getting to know me. Then my achievements in terms of my internships. She wrote about my internships, what I'd done. She wrote about my interactions with my other law students. She wrote about my interactions in terms of what was her first thought when she met me. If you don't have something that personal. Now, another mistake that people do is, if, for example, you know a professor for 5 years, don't go pick a partner. What students do is they go for the reputation. They say, if a senior advocate writes an essay for me, they'll become better. Absolutely not. If you're under that misapprehension that a better name will get you a better SOP or a better chance for an LLM, that is wrong. For me, I could have gone to my vice chancellor and gotten it, but my vice chancellor has never taught me. So any recruiter who sees that will say, oh, you know what, this person's gone for the name. As opposed to the professor who taught me my first year, observed me through my 5 years, can tell me categorically, the student is great at research. The student has done fantastically well in terms of her endeavors, in terms of my essays, my research, my rank, my awards, my scholarships, whatever it is. So whenever you pick, and the thing is, I don't know if you guys have gone through this, most teachers essentially would have like a hesitation what to write. So it's very important when you're sitting down with them to tell them, ma'am, this is what my SOP looks like. It can't look like 3 distinct applications. It needs to look like one. Like I said, you always start with an USP, which is your unique selling point. For me, it was my academic merit, along with the fact that I went outside and explored opportunities. That together made my application. What I wrote was my achievements. What she wrote was everything else. So when you read it together, it makes perfect sense. So when you're sitting with your teacher, your professor, whoever you pick, it becomes extremely important for you to say, ma'am, this is my SOP. This is the way I've structured it. There are things that are missing in this, which I want you to replicate in yours. And you have that discussion. You tell her, ma'am, this is a college that I'm applying that gives a lot of importance to maybe pro bono work. So please highlight my pro bono work more. Having that conversation with your professor and making sure it is the most personalized essay you can find. From the first moment she met you, to your interactions, to what she thought of you, to what she changed in terms of her opinion, to why you're the perfect fit for that LLM, is going to make all the difference in terms of your application process. All right. So in your application process, you're going to see essentially your SOP, which we've covered, a generic SOP like ChatGPT. If you actually guys want, take an experiment, write a ChatGPT essay. And what you can do essentially is that ChatGPT gives you a bare-bones structure. Work around the fruits. So you have like a first draft and you say, okay, that makes sense. Like if you're somebody who's finding it hard to start off an essay, maybe ChatGPT can be a starting point. But please, especially after listening to the session, don't go and file that SOP that you've gotten from a ChatGPT as a final one. Because if at least 4 of you can identify the difference between mine and a ChatGPT, I guarantee you the recruiter will understand it. She will or he will pick on it. And that's going to be a first downgrade to getting that application set. Second thing becomes understand which college you're applying to. Now, what I've done is given you a very bare structure. I've given you a US college, I've given you a UK college. Look into each college in terms of what they prioritize. So for me also, the reason why I told in my Cambridge application, rowing particularly as opposed to swimming, I'm a swimmer. Instead of mentioning swimming, I mentioned rowing because Cambridge University has the highest or is one of the best rowing communities in the world. That's their USP, which I'm saying, you know what, you're great at that. I also want to be a part of it. Every time, I think what most people fail to do is when you're applying for an application, right? Think of yourself as a product that you want to sell. What is it that you want to sell? What are your qualities? If, for example, you're in a desert and there's a person who wants water, right? You're going to say, look, you're thirsty. Let me give this to you because you need it. Your thing is to be able to say, this is what your LLM program demands. Those skills is something that I have. Let me come in because I'll be the perfect fit for whatever you're offering. If they have a rowing team and I can say, you know what, I am a great swimmer and I think I can be a great rower too, and I give them some examples, you're saying what you want, I have, and what you have, I want, which is why we make the perfect marriage. Think of yourself when you're approaching an SOP or an LLM application. Put yourself in the shoes of the recruiter and say, what is it that they want? Who are they trying to invite? For example, if it's a scholarship for sports, you're not going to go there and apply and say, I do dancing. You never do that, right? You will never say for a sports application that, you know what, I'm a fantastic dancer. You will say, you know what, I've got a lot of sports records and this is what I've done. It becomes very important for you to identify what the other person wants and how you can sort of cater to it. All right. The last thing, and I think I'll sort of wind it out, is whenever you're applying for any of these applications, two things that you need to do is plan well in advance. And for most of your students, I understand that you guys are much more early into this career, right? You guys, you might say like second year students. If you have a goal to do a master's application at some point or the other, make sure you plan ahead. Because I've seen my friends who, when they're in their fifth year, who want to apply, but because their grades are not good, they're not able to apply. When I was in my first year, I said I wanted to do a master's. I didn't know where, I didn't know what I wanted to do in it, but I said I want to do a master's. Now, what are your bare bones structures of doing a master's? Your grades need to be good. Your grades need to be really good, depending on where you're going. There are some extracurricular activities that you can pick on, which is maybe mooting, debating, internships, whatever. And you say, okay, check that. What is your third check? There are certain things in terms of your academic endeavors that you want to focus on. If you keep these three things as standard across your 5 years, when you're in your fifth year, you will have an application that you can go through without thinking, oh my God, my grades are bad. Because that's what essentially happens with most students. By the time in your fifth year, you've not given too much thought to a master's application. Your grades are bad, you've not done any internships, and you do not have an interest area that you can say is yours. So please plan ahead in terms of if you want to do a master's. Don't be rigid enough to say, I want to do X master's in this X university. Leave all of that. Leave the specific aside. Keep a generic thing. So when you're in your fifth year, if you decide not to do master's, ho jayega, you'll get a job instead. Theek hai. But it should not be that your grades are the reason you can't even apply. Because all of these universities, let it be Cambridge, let it be Oxford, let it be any of these US colleges, at the end of the day, for you to step in, you need a certain amount of grades. Let's be very honest. You need a certain amount of grades. After that, you can tell them, I'm an athlete, I'm a debater, I'm a mooter, I have got this internship, I've got that internship. But your first step is getting your grades set in well. And now, depending on the university, you'll change, of course, but that's your bare bone structure. I can see that we're sort of like ending towards, like, we're sort of nearing it. And the thing is, a session like this requires a lot more in-depth analysis because you have to start from what motivates you to apply, what are the considerations. For me, it was personally about understanding my subject area more. For some people, it's to get a job outside. For some people, it's to increase their salary package. Understanding your why as to why you want to do your master's becomes your first step, which is a very different session. Your second session is to be able to understand what is a broad-based structure in terms of your applications, which is how do you approach a US college? How do you approach a UK-based college? We've sort of gotten that in terms of your applications. Third thing becomes, okay, we've gotten the SOP, you've written the best SOP you can ever think of, which you think will get you into your master's. What about the letter of recommendation? Because that is a validation, somebody else telling you that she is really good at what she does. Don't screw up on that in terms of how it is, because that is very important for them to judge you as to what kind of candidate you are. The last part of it, which is equally important, is if you're like me, I come from a very simple middle class family. I couldn't afford to fund my own master's in any form or manner, unless I took a loan or unless it was a scholarship. it becomes very important from the time that you start applying to be able to understand what are the scholarship opportunities and to make your applications along with it. Now, the reason I haven't gone into the scholarship essay part of it is because it's a very lengthy process in terms of how do you apply, what does a scholarship essay look like. My scholarship essay to Cambridge, or even for that matter to Oxford, was very different from that UK based standard. It was much more American based because I told them my story. So for me, my USP in my scholarship essay is for the fact that I've grown up in a hostel all my life. I was an athlete all my life, and I wanted to do X and Y, Z things. And my USP is a girl who wants to embrace her diverse nature. That was my USP. And that ran through every aspect, which is, for example, in my scholarship essay, I said just a small thing. So I've been an athlete, and I was a dancer, and I did theater. And I did mooting, debating in my school. These were the 4 things that I did. But if you look at it in 4 different ways, these look like very contrasting extracurricular activities to have. Who's a dancer who also does karate? Who's a sports who also does swimming? It's very contrasting elements. So my essay was entirely premised on being able to say, look at these 4 contradictory things that you're taking into account. The beauty of it is to be able to find some peace in it. And that's what I did. And if you look at my personalized essay or my Cambridge essay, it essentially said, look, there's this very unique order that does not make sense at all. And I've always been someone who finds a beauty in things that don't make sense. So let me come along. Everything that you sort of frame it and the way you draft it needs to be able to take into that larger USP, which is your personality. And then you sort of tie it in all together. So guys, I think this sort of brings us to the end of our session. I hope it was helpful. If you guys have any questions in terms of how you want to approach, or any questions in terms of the session, or for the fact that you guys want maybe a more lengthier session, because this is the most bridged form that I could sort of bring in terms of what I could give. Because I remember it takes you months to sort of understand what these essays look like and how you sort of go through with it. And it becomes very important for the sessions to be a little more detailed. So you break down every aspect and you say, this is how you would sort of proceed with it. Just on a very light note, I very recently, for my cousin, actually started a series called Tuesdays with Lawrence. Is something that I do on Instagram, where I started breaking down things that law students face on a day-to-day life, from your internships, your mooting, your mental health issues, whatnot. So it goes by my name. It's Tracy Joe Lawrence on Instagram. If you think there is some kind of assistance, because I will be taking classes or sessions on LLMs and just breaking these things down onto a minute level. If you guys want, and I think it's quite helpful, do join in or do sign in. And if there's any particular topic you would want me to talk about, I'll be more than happy to cover it. So yeah, is there any questions? I think I'm seeing something. Can we complete LLM program through long distance? Yeah, you can actually. It really depends on each university. So I do know Indian universities offer it. I think a couple of the NLUs offer it. The college that I was particularly looking for was something that would require me to go there in person and attend it. So it was a little hard for me to do it otherwise. So I think you will have to go through each, like for example, Madhavi, if you have a particular university in mind, saying you want to do it, for example, NLU Delhi, you want to graduate from NLU Delhi and do your master's, go to the NLU Delhi website and you will see if the particular program is offered in online or offline. So yeah. So thing is, when you're applying for masters, right, what are the career scope available for students pursuing masters? So your goal of doing masters can be multifold. For me, it was for the fact that I liked a subject area so much that I wanted to study more. A lot of students go for masters with the aim to sort of get a job outside. So a lot of my seniors actually, they did their masters with the sole intent of moving outside. So they went and did an international LLM and they moved outside. They're working in the Middle East, they're working in UK, US, whatnot. But their goal was to step outside. For some others, like me, I've been working for 2.5 years. I'm hoping to do my master's when I've done a 3.5 years of work experience. The goal is to be able to do it, to be able to perhaps get a salary hike, to get a hike, or to be able to be more niche in my field. So the goals are very different. So if it's job opportunities, you will really have to study. If you do an LLM in India, chances are you won't get a job opportunity outside. It's a little hard because the curriculum is very different. If you're doing a job opportunity outside, the chances are you will be able to find a job around the market. A UK LLM or a US LLM or an international LLM will make you a much more international or a global student to be able to find these opportunities. So it's not too restricted. You'll have to really see where you see yourself. So for me, I wanted to move outside, which is why I chose a foreign university. For example, my flatmate here, she's done her master's from NLU Jodhpur, and she's working in India itself. So she got through a really good tier one firm and she's working here right now. So the goals are very different. So it really depends on where you want to do that master's in. Anusha, you've asked me whether LLM better or offline. It actually depends. So for me, as you can see, I've asked everyone to sort of please switch on the camera. You can see how much I prefer a person or in-person approach. So for me, I'd always pick an offline program because of the fact that an LLM for me is not just study, but you'll also meet your peers. You'll have a very good interconnection with them, especially for somebody like, for example, I don't know the, I don't know which law schools the students are largely from, but some students, for example, when I met students who are coming from perhaps a non-NLU background or maybe not from the most reputed law school, then they would do an LLM program to sort of build up their profile. So they say, given the fact that maybe my undergrad program was not the most credible in terms of brand value, I will do an LLM, which will give me a much more better brand value and I can go ahead with it. So for me, I would always pick an offline LLM program for the reason that it's much more personal. You will make friends, you will make your alumni, you might get a job offer there. The options to explore and sort of work around things are a lot better. So yeah. Any other questions, guys? We're good. Can we call it a day? I think thanks a lot for joining on a Saturday. I know it would take everything to sort of forego a couple of hours on a Saturday, but I hope it was helpful. If you guys want to reach out to me in private, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or even for this number, completely fine. You can always reach out in terms of getting a much more detailed session, because webinars can only give you a glimpse of what is required. The remaining everything comes in these workshops where you sit down and you break down these programs and you break down these sessions. So I hope it was helpful. Somebody's raised their hand. Jeet, I'm so sorry about my
Yeah,
pronunciation.
Oh, perfectly fine. Just to say that this was possibly the the best way to summarize such a complex subject in an hour. I wanted to thank you. It was
Oh,
wonderful.
no. Thanks a lot. It's always my pleasure. Okay, guys. So again, feel free to reach out to me personally on my Instagram account or my LinkedIn account. If you guys think there needs to be a much more broken down way of sort of getting an idea of how these LLM applications go forth, you can reach out to Legal Vidya and they can tell me there is some interest and we'll figure out another session. If
Sorry.
you guys are, yes, Jeet?
Sorry
No worries.
to interrupt. Actually, I had a question in mind, just skipped my mind. See, somebody who has done an LLM in India, will that become a negative point while applying for another LLM abroad?
I don't think so, not at all. Because, I mean, can I ask you where you did your LLM from?
Not me. My cousin has done it from Jindal,
Okay.
and he gave up the idea
That's
of
a
applying
great
to
LLM
UK.
program, actually.
Yeah. He did it in general LLM,
Okay.
but he was half inclined to apply to UK. I'm in the final year of LLB only.
Okay.
So, but then he gave it up thinking that, two LLMs, they may not even consider me. That's what he was saying.
No, I don't think it'll be. I mean, for somebody who's not done it, I don't know how much I can speak for it. But the thing is, I know people who've done two LLMs, and I think it's always helped in terms of, see, if he's done a general LLM, right? Your goal would largely not be to
Right.
do an again general LLM. You're saying, look, I've done a general LLM because I had. Also everything, right, stays on the way you want to stay a story. And I think that's why we kind of like miss it. If the story is, look, I'd always had an academic interest, I went and did my Jindal, and I realized I have further things to explore. And I want not just from an Indian, perspective, I want to explore it from a global perspective, which is why your LLM caters to my interest the best. And I'm coming as someone who's already done this. It becomes extremely important for me to explore it. So, which is why most people look at LLM applications as just something you say, but it's the place that you sell yourself the most. Think of yourself as a product and bring out the best story. things make sense when you're doing in hindsight. So tell your cousin actually to figure out a story of giving a very compelling reason of why he did the Jindal University ka LLM program and why he thinks that is not sufficient. So you're going from a place of curiosity. You're saying, look, it was great, but I think I can do better. And I think I can do it even better. And your university will get me better. So I don't think it ever harms. I think it's a fantastic thing to do a US LLM program.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Are we done, guys, or any other doubt, anything? I'll be more than happy to take it. Feel free to just switch on your camera and just say hi or bye else. I'm completely fine. But I can always remember your faces if we have a next session, so it'll always be good. So yes. Are we good? Is there any other questions, or we can call it a day and you guys can aram se go
No,
have
ma'am, we
fun?
can wind up this session. I think no
Yeah.
one have any queries. So thank you so
Got
much, ma'am, for this wonderful
Very nice.
session on SOPs and essays. And also thank you, ma'am, for taking out time for your schedule to be speaker of this webinar. Thank you, ma'am. The session was truly enlightening for us all. Also,
Thank
I'd
you.
like to thank the participants who joined this session. Thank you, everyone. Now you can fill the feedback form for your certificates.
Please do. Also, thank you guys. I mean, I just want to say thanks a lot, Arupa. How do I pronounce it?
Anurupa.
Anurupa, thanks a lot for staying on. It was really helpful having like a face nodding and understanding. Same, similarly, Anusha. Asad, I think I just saw you right now. So thanks a lot actually for staying on because I think it really helps. Otherwise, there's so much of a block.
Ma'am, we can reach out at Instagram, right? And
Yeah, you can reach out to me on Instagram. So don't worry about it. The thing is, if you guys want a session or workshop, I think it's more easier for you because if it's a more comprehensive thing, right? Instead of doing it individually, I think I can do it a lot more comprehensive if it's done through Legal Vidya. So if there is an attempt to tell them that can we do it in a workshop way, we can break this down in a much better and like consumable manner.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. Thanks a lot. Bye, guys.